Afghanistan, a name that echoes through the annals of history, often evoking a sense of mystery, conflict, and resilience. Just saying the name conjures up images of, well, let's be honest, probably not sunshine and rainbows. Instead, we think of rugged landscapes, war-torn regions, and a people who have endured countless invasions and conflicts. Nestled in the heart of Central Asia, Afghanistan is a landlocked country with a history as rugged as its mountainous terrain. Its strategic location has made it a crossroads of civilizations, a place where East meets West, and where empires have clashed for millennia. See what I did there? Rugged terrain, rugged history. Okay, maybe not my best material, but seriously, the terrain here is no joke. The mountains, valleys, and deserts have shaped not just the geography, but the very soul of this nation. But seriously, Afghanistan's location is kind of a big deal. It's like the ultimate real estate in the ancient world. Whoever controlled Afghanistan controlled the gateway between the East and the West. It's like the roundabout on the ancient Silk Road, where everyone from traders to conquerors had to pass through. This made it a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and unfortunately conflicts. And let me tell you, that led to some awkward encounters. Imagine a place where Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and the British Empire all decided to drop by uninvited. Imagine bumping into your ex at the grocery store, but instead of an ex, it's Genghis Khan. Not ideal. These encounters were often brutal and left lasting scars on the land and its people. Over the centuries, everyone in their mom's empire has tried to take a bite out of Afghanistan. From the Persians, to the Greeks, the Mongols, to the Mughals, and more recently the British, Soviets, and Americans. But here's the kicker. It's never gone well. Each of these mighty empires thought they could conquer and control Afghanistan, only to find themselves bogged down in a quagmire of resistance and rebellion. Afghanistan is the geopolitical equivalent of that fruitcake your aunt makes every Christmas. Everyone gets a slice, nobody really wants it. It's a place that has been more of a burden than a prize for those who sought to dominate it. So buckle up, because we're about to take a wild ride through the history of a nation that has seen more than its fair share of drama, intrigue, and empires going. You know what? On second thought, I'm good. From ancient times to the modern era, Afghanistan's story is one of resilience, defiance, and an unyielding spirit that has outlasted the ambitions of some of history's greatest powers. Let's rewind the clock a bit, shall we? Imagine a time when the world was a vast, uncharted expanse, and the concept of empires was just beginning to take shape. Back when empires were all the rage and Instagram filters involved actual togas. Picture bustling markets filled with traders from distant lands exchanging goods, stories, and cultures. We're talking about the time of the Persians, who were basically the cool kids on the block. Their empire stretched far and wide, showcasing impressive architecture and a formidable army. They rolled into Afghanistan like they owned the place, which, to be fair, they kind of did. The Persian influence was strong, leaving a lasting mark on the region's culture and infrastructure. Then came Alexander the Great, who apparently didn't believe in texting before dropping by. With his ambitious vision and unparalleled military strategy, he swept through the Persian Empire. He conquered his way through Persia and into Afghanistan, presumably while wearing sandals and carrying a really impractical sword. His journey was legendary, filled with epic battles and strategic conquests. Now you'd think after Alexander, things would quiet down, right? Wrong. The region continued to be a hotspot for cultural and political activity, with various empires vying for control. Afghanistan became a melting pot of cultures, with influences from Greece, India, and even Buddhism making an appearance. The Silk Road played a crucial role in this cultural exchange, bringing diverse ideas and practices to the region. It was like a historical episode of Chopped, but instead of mystery ingredients, they had empires. Each new ruler added their own flavor to the mix, creating a rich tapestry of history that continues to fascinate us today. Fast forward a few centuries and Islam decided to make its grand entrance. And by grand entrance, I mean a gradual spread of religious and cultural influence, not a surprise flash mob. That would just be weird. The arrival of Islam led to the rise of some seriously powerful empires like the Ghaznavids and the Ghurids. These guys were like the Beyoncé and Jay-Z of their time, except instead of dropping albums, they were dropping armies on their neighbors. The Ghaznavids in particular were known for their wealth and splendor. They were basically the Kardashians of the 11th century, but with better architecture. Section 4. Mongols and Mughals. Because one conqueror wasn't enough. Just when you thought Afghanistan had seen it all, along came the Mongols. Led by the infamous Genghis Khan, they swept through Asia like a horseback-riding, arrow-shooting hurricane. Genghis Khan, the OG Conqueror, was known for his ruthlessness and his questionable facial hair choices. He even made it onto Santa's naughty list, which is impressive considering he lived centuries before Santa was even a thing. After the Mongols came the Mughals, who were a bit more into art and architecture. They were like the artsy cousins of the Mongols, the ones who show up to family reunions with paint on their clothes and sonnets in their pockets. Section 5. The great game turns out, empires never learn. By the 19th century, the British and Russian empires decided to turn Afghanistan into their own personal game of Risk. Both empires were driven by their insatiable desire for expansion and control. The British, with their vast colonial holdings in India, saw Afghanistan as a buffer zone to protect their prized colony from Russian advances. On the other hand, the Russians, eager to expand their influence southward, viewed Afghanistan as a gateway to the riches of the Indian subcontinent. This period, known as the Great Game, involved a lot of political maneuvering, espionage, and thinly veiled threats, all for control of this strategically important yet still rather undesirable piece of land. The term, the Great Game itself evokes images of a grand chessboard, with Afghanistan as the central square that both empires were desperate to control. Spies, diplomats, and soldiers were all pawns in this high-stakes game, each move calculated to outmaneuver the other. It was like a geopolitical game of tug-of-war, with Afghanistan as the rope and everyone else wondering why they even bothered. The land, rugged and mountainous, was notoriously difficult to govern. Yet, the British and Russians poured resources and manpower into this struggle, each hoping to gain the upper hand. The local Afghan tribes, fiercely independent and skilled in guerrilla warfare, resisted both empires' attempts at control, adding another layer of complexity to the conflict. The British, bless their cotton socks, seemed to have a knack for getting themselves into sticky situations in Afghanistan. Their attempts to impose control were met with fierce resistance, leading to a series of costly and bloody conflicts. The First Anglo-Afghan War, which began in 1839, ended in disaster for the British, with a humiliating retreat from Kabul. They fought 3 wars there, and let's just say they weren't exactly victorious. The Second Anglo-Afghan War in 1878 saw the British temporarily gain control, only to face ongoing resistance and unrest. The Third Anglo-Afghan War in 1919 resulted in Afghanistan gaining full independence, marking the end of British attempts to dominate the region. Each conflict left a legacy of bitterness and mistrust, with the British never quite learning their lesson. It's like that friend who keeps going back to the same terrible bar, hoping for a different outcome. Despite repeated failures and the high cost in lives and resources, the British continued to believe they could succeed where they had previously failed. This stubbornness, combined with a lack of understanding of the local culture and terrain, doomed their efforts from the start. The Great Game serves as a stark reminder of the futility of imperial ambitions and the resilience of those who resist them.